Hello everybody, this is Conquering History Games, and welcome back to, I believe, part 6 of my combined Syndicates of America playthrough here in Hearts of Iron 4 Kaiserreich. Civil War is now over, so the work must begin. America is liberated at long last. All of America is part of the combined Syndicates of America. The revolution has achieved its major victory. Oh wait, didn't I read this? Yeah, waving the red flag of socialism from California to Newark Island. I feel like I did that at the end of the last episode. The end of the Second American Civil War, what could have been the greatest capitalist oppressor of the 20th century, is now firmly under the control of the working class. Wait, what? I feel like that sentence needs work. Throughout the country, the working class celebrates its liberation from the depredations of their bourgeois masters. While there is still much to do, today we can celebrate this victory and savor the air of an America where, for the first time, each man is truly equal. So there go basically all of my divisions, including Oliver's Rams. They're gone. Okay, I know that I usually say that I'm going to talk about a general here at the start of each episode, but there's a lot of work to be done here. I am going to talk about one figure, but we need to seriously reorganize. So first off, let's split these guys up. Perfect. Okay, get this guy over here with Butler. Make sure we got our best generals in charge here. Okay, fantastic. Maurice, you're good there. What's this? Oh yeah, I'm not spending these on anything, so yeah, let's get aggressive assaulter and the offensive doctrine. Okay, lots of stuff going on here. Now, let's pick this up to early mobilization, I'm thinking. Yeah, we need to get rid of our consumer good factories as quickly as possible. There's lots of reasons for this, but primarily the issue here is, okay, so as you can see, my stability is absolutely in the tank. I'm no longer getting the Fighting for America thing. But if we go over here, you see I just lost a bunch of stuff that I was trading. Every single one of my factories right now is getting consumed by consumer goods. And the reason for this is because 40% of my factories at the moment have to go towards consumer goods. But consumer goods only eats up civilian factories, not regular ones. And I've got almost 100 military factories, but only 48 civilian ones. And then there's also the 28 naval dockyards. So everything is getting eaten up because I don't have any civilian factories. What's going on down here with Nicaragua? Nicaragua and El Salvador are at war. I guess we're going for, Nicaragua. All right, 1938 World Series. The 1938 World Series of baseball is here. This is the first World Series since the Revolution, and attendance is high. 7 games of baseball over 6 days as the Cincinnati Reds fought the Detroit Tigers. The games are extremely close. The final game is anyone's guess. I'm going to go over the Tigers here. Yeah, so you know, we spent some quick money on getting to the early mobilization, but we're going to need a lot more than that, and it looks like the, Jesus, screw me, right? The Indo-Chinese Union's revolt was a failure. Can't win them all, huh, Syndicalists? Cincinnati Reds. The Reds have won the game. It was close, but Ernie Lombardi scored the final home run in the final inning to secure the win for the Reds and making so they won the 1938 World Series. Go Reds. Okay, well, none of that affects me anyway. So we're going to come over here to industry. I know this is ahead of time, but we're going to grab the dispersed. We need to be building lots of stuff as quickly as possible. Actually, I wonder if I should have gotten consumer goods, but we're going to put that stuff down to the bottom of the list and start thinking about what our next plan here is. Now, my stability is in the negatives, but it's weekly changing on its own, so I'm not going to do anything too directly in response to that. The question is, do I do the Second Constitutional Convention first, or do I start to rebuild the country? I'm actually going to go ahead and start the Second Constitutional Convention first. Time has come to decide the next step in our revolutionary struggle to find a way to unite workers behind a single cause and ideology. Like it was over a century ago, we shall let Philadelphia be the site of a constitutional convention. Actually, wait a second. Well, I need for partial more than 25. You know what? Let's No, yeah, we're gonna do the Second Constitutional Convention. Let's just do this real quick, and then, depending on who wins, we'll figure out what we're gonna do next. Now, meanwhile, we're going to convert these guys over to infantry divisions, I'm thinking. There we go. Very good. How short does that put us on stuff? We are 30 days back on infantry equipment. The longest are bombing. I'm going to start clicking through these, but as we see with this first one, longest supporters of Long and his ideals have targeted an arms factory in West Virginia, causing a great deal of damage and the loss of many lives. Revolutionary Guards are on the scene and claim they are closer to catching the ringleaders behind the Catholic terrorists than they were before. We shall crush these terrorists. Okay, well, isn't that wonderful? So we need to be thinking about how we're going to fix the consumer factory problem, because it kind of is a big problem. Of course, most of this is due to the early mobilization, but getting rid of the Federalist and longest resistance is sure going to help as well. All right, what's going on with this constitutional convention? I thought I was supposed to get events while it was happening. Am I wrong on that? Evidently. Uruguay just got annexed. Yeah, I'm pleased with how relatively quick the war was over. All right, Federalist bombing, hurting my stability. They're destroying civilian factories. Oh, great, because it's not like I don't have any. All right. But you see, right now, I need 50 of my factories to be going into that, and I've only got 51. So, yeah, that's what I'm talking about with in regards to building things. All right, we got that level destroyer done. Let's actually take a look here at the Navy. Of course, we want to switch up the destroyer. We're good on the submarines, convoys. Now, here's actually, I think, the main change I need to do. Let's take away the Navy stuff. Let's take a look at our tanks. I think the heavy tanks, actually, in retrospect, are a really bad idea because chromium is one of the few resources that I actually don't have. So I probably shouldn't be, doing that, trying to make more of it. I also have way too much infantry equipment being built. Let's at least bring it down to here. All right, that already looks much better. Actually, let's even take it down to there. So, yeah, we already got all the infantry equipment we need built up. Very good. And we're just going to start cranking out these light tanks, try to make a decent light tank division. And let's split some of these off. So these are those heavy tanks that never had heavy tanks. So these are now ghost divisions because they don't have heavy tanks in them. They don't have anything. Dealing with a hurricane. All right, now I thought I have another tank guy, right? Okay, here we go. He's reckless, armor officer. You're good. Yeah, James Patrick Murphy. You're gonna do just fine. Probably make him a combined armor expert and keep the heavy tanks in there just for laughs. Okay. What am I short on right now? Heavy tank, yeah, right, I already knew that. The heavy tanks, we're just going to leave that be. Since we are doing the light tanks, let's pick up the next one with the Stuart. I think I might try to do something where maybe I'll go with a lot of light tank division types. What's going on with that constitutional convention? Okay, we're not there yet, but let's also try to get some more support here. More air support. Okay. Yeah, I think all things considered, that's going to be pretty good. Wait, am I building any anti-tank equipment? Do I even have that? No, I don't. Okay, so I need to take care of that at some point. Yes, indeed. Okay. Alright, Second Constitutional Convention is done. Meanwhile, let's go over here to rebuilding the country. The Great American Revolution is over, but unless something is done, the wounds we have torn open in this country will continue to fester and bleed. We must work with haste to build up an egalitarian, equal, and enduring America from the ruins of the old. Okay, sounds good to me. All right, Constitutional Convention begins. So taking that focus just starts it. Today, Gallica, Battlestar Galactica? No, wait, no, Gallica is the video game, my bad. Anyway, we've got today delegates gathered from across the country in the city of Philadelphia as the Second Constitutional Convention is convened in order to draft a new and better constitution for the country. While various factions have formed to help push for one view or another, everyone is excited to see what the new constitution will bring. The city of Philadelphia itself is celebrating the occasion for all men and women within the city. Workers of America unite. So Jack Reed, he stepped down. So we got the CCC Army. Doesn't quite roll off the tongue, does it? All right, but we got that finished. We could improve the workers' conditions, but I think that's actually a bad idea right now, because meaning that there's other things I could do with my political power, and besides, the workers' conditions have already clearly very much improved. So now we got to start figuring out our constitution and stuff, and this is probably going to take up most of the episode. But I do want to say, the direction that I am going in. I think I've mentioned this before. We are going to be doing Commonwealth of Labor direction. At some point in the future, I am also going to do a Union of Socialist American States campaign because the events are just too good, and it really plays like I think it plays like a very different country, so it's worth doing. But for right now, Socialist Constitution and System of Government. The first thing that is being debated is the nature of the government. Two camps have broken out. The first camp argues that America should be a syndicalist government with all power vested in the trade unions. The second camp argues that America should be a socialist state with power vested in local councils. Okay, we want the radical socialists. So the people exercise state power through councils of people's deputies. Great. Okay, now we're creating a framework for our constitution. I think I really am gonna have to. I'm actually gonna have to build refineries as America, but I just need the rubber. Okay, Socialist Constitution Framework. Article 1. All power in America derives from... And I am going to read all of these because it's a lot, but somebody took the time to write them all. I won't comment on them because the episode's going to be long enough already. You guys can take what you will out of it. All right, Article 1. All power in America derives from the people and belongs to the people. The people exercise state power through councils of people's deputies, which constitute the political foundation of America. All other state bodies are under the control of and accountable to the councils of people's deputies. Article 2. All representative organs of state authority are elected by the citizens on the basis of universal, equal, and direct suffrage by secret ballot. Okay, I do want to say, here I said I wasn't going to comment. The secret ballot wasn't always a thing in the United States. You had to publicly declare who you were voting for. So you just know peer pressure was going on. That's like in the 1800s, though. Now people declare without incentive or being forced to. It's actually election night tonight in the United States. I don't know when you guys are watching this, but it is election night tonight for me. It's already over. Polls are all closed. And I voted last week anyway. Early voting for the win. The people's representatives in all organs of state authority are responsible to their electors. It will be determined by law in which case, under what conditions, and in what way the electors may recall their representatives even before the end of the period for which they were elected. Article 3. No law or administrative or local rules and regulations shall contravene the Constitution. All state organs, the armed forces, all political parties and public organizations, and all enterprises and undertakings must abide by the Constitution and the law. All acts in violation of the Constitution and the law must be investigated. No organization or individual may enjoy the privilege of being above the Constitution and the law. Approved. So, hey, got some little political power. All right, more articles. So, human rights and workers' rights. Article 6. Citizens are guaranteed the freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, the freedom to hold public meetings and demonstrations. Freedom of conscience and freedom of religion are guaranteed to citizens. The church is separate from the state. Article 7. Women have equal rights with men in all fields of state, economic, and social political life. Women have the right to the same pay as that received by men for the same work, and as workers or employees they enjoy special protection. The state especially protects the interests of mothers and children by the establishment of maternity hospitals, children's homes, and day nurseries, and by the right of mothers to leave with pay before and after childbirth. Article 8. Citizens of America are guaranteed inviolability of the person. No one may be arrested except by a court decision or on the warrant of a procurator. Citizens of America are guaranteed inviolability of the home. No one may without lawful grounds enter a home against the will of those residing in it. Article 9. By economic and other measures, the state assists the working people to associate and organize themselves for their protection against economic exploitation. Whoa, pardon me. The state protects persons who are engaged as workers or employees especially by assuring them the right of association, by limiting the working day, by ensuring the right to paid annual holidays, by controlling working conditions, by devoting attention to housing conditions and social insurance. So this is okay. This is extreme. This is very, very union right here. In fact, all things considered, you'd think they would have put this higher. Okay, approved. Next, Socialist Constitution, Judiciary. A question has arrived within the convention about the nature of the judiciary. Some within the convention thinks we should enshrine judicial independence as well as judicial review into the Constitution. However, others point out that the courts have long been used as a tool against the people and the workers, and thus to prevent that from happening again should be under government control. What shall be decided? You know what? It's kind of interesting because I've been researching a lot of the characters in the characters. They were real people, but the people who were in the combined syndicates of America, and something I was noticing kept coming up consistently, because a lot of the stuff that I'm reading is written in like the early 30s, is that you had a lot of members of the Communist Party, socialists, who hated the Supreme Court, and they didn't like the Supreme Court because it was ruling against them all the time, because this is during the period of the Four Horsemen of the Supreme Court. But it's kind of funny because eventually, like, the left learns to love the Supreme Court once you get the Warren Court coming around, and then even before that with like Hugo Black and them. And there was this book I found in my library called 9 Men Against America, which is just like 200 pages of of bashing the Supreme Court, saying it's just become this liberal, un-American bastion. And it's like by somebody who's very clearly on the right. So like, I think that book was written in 1958 because it seemed to have been written in response to Brown versus Board of Education, and it was condemning it, by the way. And I was just like looking at that, I'm thinking, wow, 25 years earlier, the people on the left hated the Supreme Court. Now the people on the right hate the Supreme Court. And incidentally, that book, 9 Men Against America, had ended with a calling for the passage of a constitutional amendment to void all Supreme Court decisions from 1937 onwards. 1937, incidentally, is when Hugo Black hit the court. Anyway, so judicial review. Okay, where's my American students? What was the Supreme Court case that established the principle of judicial review? Got 5 seconds? That would be Marbury versus Madison, of course. And we are going to enshrine that judicial review and independence. Okay, economics. Article 15. I'm noticing some articles are missing here. It's probably some of those boring ones like maritime law. Oh, actually, I just see waters in here. What does this say? Article 15. The foundation of the economic system of America is socialist ownership of the means of production in the form of public property belonging to all the people and collective farm and cooperative property. Article 16. All mineral and other wealth underground, the waters, including mineral and medicinal waters, the source of natural power, the means of rail and air transport, the posts, telegraphs, telephones, and broadcasting are public property. Article 17. The land belongs to those who cultivate it. The property of collective farms and other cooperative organizations and of their joint undertakings comprise the means of production and other assets which they require for the purposes laid down in their rules. The land held by collective farms is secured to them for their free use in perpetuity. Article 18. Private property and private initiative in economy are guaranteed. The inheritance of private property is guaranteed. The right of inheritance is regulated by law. No person is, I just real quick, this is a very anti-communist thing, actually, because you read the Communist Manifesto, although, Marxist thought, it has so many splinters, but in the actual Communist Manifesto, it talks about getting rid of inheritance, so it's guaranteeing it right here. The right of inheritance is regulated by law. No person is permitted to use the right of private property to the detriment of the people's community. The existence of private monopolistic organizations such as cartels, syndicates, trusts, and similar organizations created for the purpose of dictating prices, monopolizing the market, and damaging the interests of public economy is forbidden. Syndicates are forbidden, you say? I'm sure the editor will fix that. It's like, like the infamous, I'm trying to remember, I don't remember what word, but somewhere on the Declaration of Independence, there's a word that I think the clerk changed from Thomas Jefferson's writing because there was a dispute about what was the proper spelling of it or something. Or I'm trying to remember what it was. It was something like if you were supposed to use in or un. I think it was inalienable or unalienable. That was the argument, I think. Jefferson wrote one and then it was changed. Sorry, this is kind of funny. Syndicates are forbidden. I'm sorry, I'm getting so distracted. Private property may be limited or expropriated if the common interest requires it, but only in accordance with the law. It will be determined by law in which cases and to what extent the owner shall be compensated. Under the same conditions, individual branches of national economy or single enterprises may be nationalized by law if the common interest requires it. Approved. Getting, we're getting 20 political power every time we do one of these, but it's not going to go far, believe me. Okay, Congress and the President. The convention is debating about whether the real strength of the government should lay, Congress or the President. While both will be directly elected by the people, one branch will be the driving branch, and where policy is decided on, what should it be? Okay, so we're favoring Congress. All right, centralization or decentralization. The convention is debating the strength of the central government, something that the government should be strong. That's probably supposed to say something. That the government should be strong to protect the rights of workers and to make sure that nothing like that in the Great Depression happens again. While others are arguing that what we should be strengthening are the local governments and not having most of the power in the hands of the central government. Many delegates from the industrial unions have pushed for decentralization, insisting only decentralization saves us from dictatorship. A surprisingly strong minority in the craft unions have come out in favor of centralization in order to, quote, protect the dignity of skilled labor from mob rule, unquote. All right, we're going decentralized. All right, capital. One of the last things to be decided is the capital of America. While many are advocating for Washington, D.C. as the capital, as it was the old capital and easily fits that purpose, others are advocating for Chicago, Philadelphia, and New York City. What shall the convention choose? We are going to go with Chicago on this particular one. Home of the revolution during the war years. Constitutional Convention is concluded. The Constitutional Convention has finally come to an end, and the new Constitution of America has been written. However, despite this, now comes the real work of rebuilding the country. Long live the workers of America. Okay. So we're still waiting. We're still not even halfway through. We're doing this. Now, interim president time. Now I'm actually going to talk about somebody. At the final days of the Congress, John Silas Reed, better known as Jack Reed, announced that he would step down as leader of the country, announcing that his health has been deteriorating due to the stress of guiding the revolution. Yeah, it's probably that whole bleed for Reed nonsense and the demon inside him. Man, you ain't going to curry favor with that flavor. Curry tastefully. And that he wishes to spend his final days with his wife Louise Reed and his daughter. Moreover, he emphasized that his role was to see the country through to the revolution, but a new leader needs to lead it now. So while the country prepares for a proper election, whom shall become the interim president? So we already talked about Elizabeth Flynn here. Then you got Norman Thomas, and I guess they kind of screwed up a little bit here on the localization, but it's basically Browder or Foster. It's not going to be either of these two because, like I said, I'm going to do a totalist run at some point. So what we're going to do is go with Norman Thomas and the Radical Socialists. Norman Thomas being Jack Reed's vice presidential candidate. Now, let's talk about Norman Thomas here. I got a decent amount to say. I'm going to probably talk about it a bit here and a little bit more in the next episode. So Norman Thomas, let's just see what the bio says first. Norman Thomas had seen the highs and the lows and the highs of social stature and remained dedicated to socialism the entire way through. From a newspaper boy to Princeton magna cum laude to conscientious objector. Prior to the Civil War, he had served as New York City's mayor and the vice presidential candidate of Jack Reed. Thomas pivoted his pacifism during the war into advocacy for socialists living in the federal lands to resist construction. I resist construction. It's killing my city. Orange barrels everywhere, but nothing's getting built. But he's talking about resisting conscription. After the war, he used his learned experience and close friendship to Jack Reed, preaching on behalf of the Federalists to lead the Democratic Socialists to victory in the Constitutional Convention. With a heart of gold and unshakable morals, Norman Thomas has ascended to the presidency. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about him real quick in real life. So this poor dude ran for president 6 times and never won as a socialist. Also had a debate with Barry Goldwater, which I think I talked about in my American Union State playthrough. So I wanted to learn about this guy because I was going to be going radical socialist in this one, so I figured I should know more about who Norman Thomas is. And it's kind of funny because there's like a catchphrase to whenever somebody, like a phrase, or turn of phrase, I should say, that I've heard when somebody is being really socialistic. You say, that guy, or like, and if he's wearing a suit, you say, that guy is Norman Thomas in a necktie. But the thing is, Norman Thomas wore suits all the time. When you look him up, that's like one of his distinguishing features, is that he's a socialist, but he wears a suit. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of funny that there was then became a phrase, he's Norman Thomas in a necktie. But I went into my my library, and not my personal library, but I checked out some books on Norman Thomas, by Norman Thomas. This dude, I guess all he did was write. I guess he was a minister. He was a minister. His father was a Presbyterian minister. His grandfather was a Presbyterian minister. And this guy apparently just wrote and wrote and wrote. And I've actually got a few of his books here in my hands right now. We've got The Choice Before Us by Norman Thomas, The Challenge of War by Norman Thomas, America's Way Out, A Program for Democracy by Norman Thomas. There was The Way I See It by Norman Thomas, and then kind of his version of the, for lack of a better word, the Communist Manifesto. It's called The Socialist Cure for a Sick Society, in which he basically, it's like a pamphlet basically, like it's super thin, in which he just says society's sick and only socialism can cure it. But there's two things I wanted to talk about in particular with him. The first is I wanted to read the 4 possibilities that he saw for America's future. Just I'm going to list all 4 of them. He wrote this in 1932. He said the first possibility for America's future: sheer catastrophe under the heaped up pressure of burdens and strain under which our capitalist nation already totters. Number 2, a fascism which can only postpone catastrophe, a kind of Indian summer of capitalism which the rise of an American Mussolini, with the aid of certain great industrialists plus a demagogic appeal to the little man, might bring to pass in our country. Number 3, communism, by which its own creed can come out... Number 3, communism, by which its own creed can come only out of catastrophe, and which logically will require the most rigorous dictatorship to put into effect. Possibility 4, socialism, which believes that there is still time to improve and extend rather than scrape democracy, and to make itself an alternative to rather than a consequence of world catastrophe. Among these possibilities, we can and must choose. So what I thought was interesting about that, well, it's not, I shouldn't say interesting because I already knew this, but I know a lot of people don't understand this, is that there was certainly a distinction between the communists and the socialists in the early 20th century, well, even today, but they certainly didn't get along. It wasn't like the Weimar Republic, I would say, where, it's getting really rough with them, but in between the two, but there definitely wasn't any love lost between the socialist and communist parties of America. Even though somebody like Elizabeth Gurley Flynn later joined it, she was a socialist. Although she said, I think I read somewhere, she said she was trying to change it from within. So that was the first main thing I wanted to talk about Norman Thomas. So he considers himself just somebody who's he's like, we're going to be democratic, but just with socialism, I guess. But the other thing I was noticing in book after book of his stuff, he'll dedicate entire chapters to it, is he was a pacifist all the way. There's no denying it. There's a few points in his, there's a paragraph in one of his books, I want to say it was As I See It, where he says he's talking about the concept of global demilitarization, but also in a way that it's an advantage for the United States, because the advantage is huge, because if anybody attacks the United States, we'll just jump up and beat them up, but he's, wait a second, what? Oh yeah, right, new infantry. And it kind of made me think of that Lincoln. I was reading that, and he was so confident about the United States couldn't be beaten by anybody if they tried, so we don't actually have to have a standing army. And it made me think of the famous Lincoln quote where he was saying all the hordes of Asia could never step foot in the Appalachians or drink from the Ohio River, or whatever the line was. I feel like I should know that better, but he's nobody can beat Americans unless Americans beat themselves, that kind of thing. Anyway, he's going to begin Reconstruction. The reason why he's going to do that before he even proclaims the Commonwealth of Labor is because he is a hardcore pacifist. Commonwealth of Labor is going to lead down to the revolution continuing. So, in keeping with the role-playing aspect, while Norman Thomas is in office, we will not go to war. No war under Norman Thomas, because, as I was just saying, in his writings, he is completely unequivocal. When he's talking about a global demilitarization, he's saying, I'm not talking about, reduce armaments by 20%, 50%. All of them needs to go. No armies anywhere, ever. So the way we're going to play this is that the Congress, since we gave the Congress more power than the president, is going to insist that we at least keep a standing army. And we have an army ready to defend the United States. But Norman Thomas will not sanction a war. He will not allow it. He will not tolerate aggression. He will not tolerate joining a faction. So as long as Norman Thomas is in office, we're going to work on the people. Oh, speaking of, he also was a Christian socialist, which I guess bleeds into this. The Catholic Workers' Movement. While a good number of religious groups are criticizing the effects of the revolution, that is not true for all groups. Of these groups, the one that has attracted the most attention and popularity recently, the Catholic Workers' Movement, led by Comrade Dorothy Day. The movement has attracted popularity for combining Catholicism with socialist values. They focus on the concept of works of mercy, as well as having built a number of hospitality houses in many major cities and even smaller towns. The hospitality houses are acting as support shelters for those trying to return to civilian life now that the revolution has come to fruition. So all those divisions that disappeared basically live in accordance with the justice and charity of Jesus Christ. All right, next. Okay, what do we want to research here? We could jump over. Do I want to pick up the Lee? You know, it's 1939 now. Let's just go over here to the industry and keep doing some of that. So we are still not building anything, which obviously is a real problem. Did I read what beginning reconstruction is? Basically, the country's been destroyed, and we got to fix it. This is going to open up our rebuilding the country decisions. So we're going to need, to get to partial mobilization, we're going to need more than 25% war support. I think I knew that already. Now, when we're done with reconstruction, this is going to give us 10. So once this is done, we can make the switch. Federalists are still sabotaging things. They're being jerks. They're just mad that they lost. Of course, we want to get construction because we're not going to have very many civilian factories. But the ones we do have, we need to put right to work. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit of a problem. We definitely got to get rid of these terrorists. And I really don't want to improve the workers' conditions until maybe we're just straddling under 50%. What's going on in the rest of the world? Looks like Russia, under Vladimir here, is going to be going after Central Asia. Okay, we can now make our switch over to partial mobilization just so we can get the economy working a little more. You know, we're mobilizing for peace. We're mobilizing to fix us. So, and again, we're not grabbing Commonwealth of Labor until there's been a proper election. He's just the interim president, so I'd like to believe that he's not going to declare it yet. Like, you know, with like just from what can I tell with his personality. First, we're going to deal with America first. Got these terrorists that we have to deal with. We could begin to start rebuilding the country. It's going to re-core everything, which is good for mobilization purposes, I suppose, but I just don't... I don't know if Corringham's gonna... I don't think it's gonna be a priority right now. But we might wrap it up here for the day. Yeah, the episode's gone on long enough. So, okay, we did... I know it doesn't seem like it, but we did get a lot done. Second Constitutional Convention was finished. We've begun to rebuild the country. We've begun reconstruction. We're going to start dealing with America first. We got to partial mobilization. So, you know, we still don't have any factories, but we're going to hopefully get there soon. And am I trading for anything? Okay. I'm not. I just wanted to be sure, but let's pick up the synthetic refinery here. And we're almost done with this light tank. Now, how long would it take for me to get the next one? 518 days to get light tank 3. Might get the medium tank 1. I'm not so sure. I don't know. But, you know, in the next couple months, the war is probably going to break out in Europe. Too bad Norman Thomas is in charge. We could probably go help the CNT. C'est la vie. Anyway, so thanks for joining me. I know it was a really lore-heavy episode, but you know, somebody took the time to write all those articles. I thought I'd read them out. And we have our president. We're on our way towards recovery. And in the next episode, we will continue that recovery, deal with the feds, deal with America first, start getting those construction factories down. And I don't know, I kind of might have to count up these all these focuses, but maybe if we're really lucky, we can get to a new America before there's an election in 1940. And then that new president is going to have a lot more freedom to do whatever he or she wants. So anyway, thanks for joining me. I'm Conquering History Games. Subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell so you're always notified. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Jesus Christ was a man that traveled through the land, hard-working man and brave. He said to the rich, give your goods to the poor, so they laid Jesus Christ in his grave. Yes, Jesus was a man, a carpenter by hand, his followers true and brave. One dirty coward called Judas Iscariot has laid poor Jesus in his grave. He went to the preacher, he went to the sheriff, told them all the same, sell all of your jewelry and give it to the poor, so they laid Jesus Christ in his grave. When Jesus come to town, the working folks around believed what he did say. The bankers and preachers, they nailed him on a cross and they laid Jesus Christ in his grave. Well, the people held their breath when they heard about his death. Everybody wondered why. It was the landlord and the soldiers that he hired that nailed Jesus Christ in the sky. This song was made in New York City of rich men, preachers, and slaves. If Jesus was to preach like he preached in Galilee, they would lay Jesus Christ in his grave. Yes, Jesus was a man, a carpenter by hand, his followers pure and brave. One dirty coward called Judas Iscariot has laid poor Jesus in his grave.